What do you do when your faith feels too weak to fix what you're facing? Why do some battles seem to come back again and again, no matter what you try? And what if the breakthrough you're waiting for requires more than just belief? It requires something deeper. There are moments in life when problems don't just appear, they persist. They don't come once and leave. They return, again and again. And with every return, they feel heavier, more exhausting, more difficult to overcome. Imagine being in that kind of situation, not for a short time, but over a long period. Watching someone you care about struggle in a way that you cannot control. Seeing moments of calm followed by sudden chaos. Hoping things will improve, only to face disappointment when they don't. This is not just a problem, it becomes a pattern. And patterns are hard to break, because over time they begin to shape your expectations. You stop hoping for full change. You settle for temporary relief. You adjust your life around the struggle instead of believing it can truly end. Now imagine being the one responsible for helping, but feeling completely powerless. You try everything you know. You look for solutions. You ask for help, but nothing seems to fully work. This is where frustration builds, not just because of the problem, but because of the effort that leads nowhere. And eventually something deeper begins to form. Doubt. Not always loud, not always obvious, but present. Quietly asking, will this ever change? This is where many people lose strength, not physically, but internally. Because when belief is shaken, everything else becomes harder. And yet in the middle of that struggle, there is still a decision to be made. Do you stop trying, or do you keep searching? In this moment, there is a choice to go further. To bring the situation to someone who is believed to have the ability to do what others could not. But even then, things don't go as expected. Others try to help, but fail. And this adds another layer of disappointment, because now it feels like even the closest solutions are not enough. This is where tension reaches its peak, a mixture of hope and frustration, belief and doubt, expectation and disappointment, all at the same time. And then the situation is brought forward, not in calmness but in urgency, not with confidence but with a question. If you can do anything, notice the wording, not certainty, not full belief but conditional hope. If you can, this is honest, raw, real, because sometimes faith is not perfect. It is mixed, it carries both belief and uncertainty, and that does not disqualify it, it reveals it. And in that moment, something important happens. The focus shifts from the problem to the belief behind it. Because the issue is not only what is happening externally, but what is happening internally. What you believe, what you expect, what you think is possible. And this is where the conversation becomes deeper, because it is not just about solving the situation, it is about strengthening what is within. And then comes one of the most honest statements someone can make. I believe, help my unbelief. This is powerful, because it acknowledges both sides. The part that trusts, and the part that struggles, the part that hopes, and the part that hesitates. And instead of hiding that tension, it is brought forward. This is where real growth begins. Not in pretending to be strong, but in being honest about weakness. Because once it is acknowledged, it can be addressed. And something shifts, not instantly visible, but real. There is a response, not to perfect faith, but to honest faith. And then the situation changes, not gradually, not partially, but completely. What once dominated releases, what once controlled lets go, what once caused chaos is silenced, and for the first time there is stillness, peace, restoration. This moment is powerful, but it also raises a deeper question. Why did it take this long? Why the struggle? Why the repeated failure before success? Because sometimes the process reveals what needs to be strengthened. It exposes areas that require growth, not just externally, but internally. There is also a moment of reflection that follows, a question about why previous efforts did not work. And the answer points to something deeper, that some situations require more than surface-level action, more than routine, more than habit. They require depth, connection, focus, what we might call discipline of the inner life. Because not all challenges are the same. Some are simple, some are complex, and some require a deeper level of engagement. This is where many people struggle. They approach every situation the same way, with the same level of effort, the same mindset, the same expectation, and when it doesn't work, they become discouraged. But what if the situation is asking for something more? Not more effort, but more depth, more awareness, more connection to what truly matters. This is not about doing more, it is about going deeper. And that changes everything. Because depth creates strength, it builds stability. It develops a kind of resilience that surface-level effort cannot produce. There is also a lesson here about persistence. Because the situation did not change immediately. There were attempts, failures, disappointments, and yet it continued. It was brought forward again, not abandoned, not ignored, but pursued. This matters, because persistence often makes the difference, not just in reaching the outcome, but in shaping the person, in developing endurance, in strengthening belief, in creating a mindset that does not give up easily. And this mindset carries into every area of life. Because once you learn to persist in one area, you begin to apply it in others. You become less likely to quit, less likely to accept defeat, more willing to continue even when things are difficult. There is also something important about the result. It is not just relief, it is transformation. Not temporary, it is lasting. And that is the difference between surface solutions and real change. Surface solutions manage symptoms. Real change addresses the root, and when the root is addressed, everything else shifts. This is what many people are looking for. Not just temporary relief, but lasting freedom. Not just moments of peace, but a new state of being. And that requires more than quick fixes. It requires depth, honesty, persistence, and a willingness to confront both the external situation and the internal condition. So the question becomes personal. What are you facing that feels repetitive? What struggle keeps returning? What situation seems resistant to change? And in that, what is happening within you? Is there doubt, frustration, fatigue? Are you trying to manage it? Or are you willing to go deeper? To examine your approach, to strengthen your inner foundation, to be honest about both belief and uncertainty. Because that honesty is not weakness, it is the beginning of strength. It opens the door for real change, for deeper connection, for a different kind of response. And that response can lead to a different outcome. You may not see immediate results, you may still face challenges, but something within you will begin to shift. And that shift matters, because it changes how you face everything else. With more clarity, more strength, more resilience. And over time, that creates transformation. Not just in your situation, but in your life. So don't be discouraged by struggle. Don't be defeated by delay. Don't assume that repeated challenges mean failure. They may be pointing you towards something deeper. Something that once developed will not only change this situation, but many others. Because real strength is not built in easy moments. It is built in difficult ones. And once it is built, it stays. Thank you for watching this video. If this message spoke to you, don't forget to like, follow the channel, and share it with someone who needs encouragement today. Your support helps spread this message of strength and faith to more people. And be sure to watch the full video to go deeper into this powerful perspective.